Hi everyone, Dr. Carin here. Hope you're having a good Easter long weekend. It is April 13th today, and we are going to be talking about dairy-free foods for strong bones. So, I've heard a lot from my patients these days that since we're close to home and less running around, that we're getting a chance to do a little bit of spend more time with cooking, trying out new recipes. I've definitely had a chance to pull out some of those old cookbooks that have been sitting on the shelf for years and trying out some new recipes. So I thought that might be a good time to give you a few more ideas to renew your daily menu. So I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite foods for strong bones beyond dairy. I'll give you a little bit of background on me and why bone health is particularly important for me. A few years ago, I did genetic testing that confirmed for me why I have such a strong family history of osteoporosis. So the genetic test showed that I have a predisposition to vitamin D deficiency, calcium deficiency, as well as a risk of lactose intolerance. And on top of that, my food sensitivity test helped to show me that after elimination and reintroduction process, that I have a delayed type of sensitivity to dairy protein as well. So that helped to clarify for me where my indigestion and skin issues were coming from, and immune system issues as well. It also reminded me of my grandmother struggling with bone fractures later in her life and struggling with osteoporosis medications. And so since then, I've been really looking into ways to boost my nutrition specifically for bone health without depending on dairy. So that's what I'd like to share with you today. So we have a few different foods and a little bit of a bonus food at the end. So of course, with bone health, we're not just talking about what we're eating, right? The nutrition is one part of a larger plan when it comes to bone health. So we need to be talking about exercise, sufficient protein, how your immune system is doing, even sunlight exposure for vitamin D, gut flora balance. So all of these have to be taken into consideration, of course, with nutrition. Does that make sense so far? Let me know if you have any questions so far. And I'd love to know what are your favorite bone healthy foods. Okay. So what you're going to hear me talking about is a lot of protein things, fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin K or vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, and vitamin C, and a couple other things. So the first one that I wanted to mention was one of my favorite bone healthy foods is sesame seeds. And that might sound a little bit surprising, but in sesame seeds, here's a few tablespoons, about 3 or 4 tablespoons right here. There's a surprising amount of calcium right here. So in about 3 or 4 tablespoons of sesame seeds, there's more calcium here than in 1 cup of milk. So this can be a really easy addition to whatever else you're cooking. And so I'll just show you here. You can also, of course, when you grind sesame seeds and make it into a paste, that's tahini. Tahini. So it's kind of like the peanut butter of sesame seeds. So you can use either one of those in your cooking. Yesterday I made a tahini dressing right here. And this is just that tahini, maybe about 1/4 cup of tahini with some lemon juice, a little bit of maple syrup, garlic, salt, and the little bits of green things in there is parsley. So this is a dressing that's non-dairy but creamy, and you can use it in salads or even sauteed veggies and a couple of these other foods that I'm going to talk about just after this. So this is tahini dressing or the actual sesame seeds themselves, which I just at lunchtime made a spinach saute with a whole bunch of sesame seeds like this. So you could just put it into a lot of other foods that you're already cooking and boost the calcium just like that. All right, my next foods here. Okay. And here I have spinach. So I'm not really specifically talking about spinach, but leafy greens in general are a really good source of a lot of different vitamins. So there is calcium, magnesium in there, and there's vitamin K in there, vitamin C. All of these are super important for bone health. I happen to just have spinach today, but I definitely recommend when it comes to leafy greens to make sure that every time you go to the store, you're getting some other kind of leafy greens and it's not always spinach. These different leafy greens have different kinds of compounds, like spinach has quite a bit of oxalate in it. So that can actually block calcium absorption. That doesn't mean that I would take spinach out of your diet, but just make sure you vary it with other leafy greens like kale, arugula, collard greens, chard, all of these other options as well. Oh, and when it comes to leafy greens, I definitely recommend doing a combination of cooked and raw, because you're going to get different things by doing that. Of course, the raw will help to preserve the heat-sensitive vitamins like vitamin C and folate, but cooking them tends to be easier on digestion for a lot of people, so it can actually, in the end, help with getting more nutrients out of that. And it does preserve the mineral content in the leafy greens. The other green vegetable that I'll mention here is broccoli. And this one, again, calcium, magnesium, lots here. Also vitamin K and surprisingly protein in broccoli as well. Same with the spinach, by the way. Broccoli also has those nice sulfur compounds, which are super detox friendly. So with both of these, with the broccoli, for example, with that sesame dressing, the tahini dressing, that's a super good combination to have together and will up the calcium in both of those. With the broccoli, of course, you can have raw or cooked. I just have it lightly steamed here. All right. And then my next one is collagen. I'm seeing Linda saying, oh, can't seem to join up. All right, let's see what we can do to help with that here. Is anybody else having a hard time seeing me or being able to hear me? Let me know, please, and just write it in the comments. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Seems to work. Okay. All right. All right, let me know, of course, if something changes. I'm going to keep moving on here. So my next one is collagen. So collagen is a protein. It's the most abundant protein in the body. So it's used for bones for sure, but also joints, tendon, muscle, skin. You've probably heard about collagen or gelatin as a supplement. It's super popular right now. Thanks, Donna. So this is one that I would definitely recommend trying to get in your diet as much as you can. Of course, as a supplement, it's found as a powder. So you can add either the gelatin or the collagen powder. Gelatin, when it's mixed with water, does thicken up. So it is something that a lot of people are using to thicken sauces, make into jellies. Whereas collagen doesn't have that sort of thickening effect. So I find it a little bit easier because I just stick it in the powder mixed into my warm green tea in the morning. And it just dissolves in there. There's not much of an odor or a taste at all. And doesn't change the texture. So that's a super easy one. But collagen and gelatin you can get from making bone broth at home. So this is where you're just using those bones and simmering for a long time. the nice thing about that one is that you're also getting the extra calcium and magnesium, the minerals from the bones, on top of the collagen. So I think that if you're able to do bone broth, that's even better than doing a supplement. I just have right now, the protein powder that I'm using is a bone broth protein. So just wanted to show that. And of course, there's different brands that have this, but I definitely stick with professional brands when I'm working with animal products. So this is the one that I'm using right now. So that's both collagen and gelatin. Either one of those are great. Okay, my next one. Now, I didn't cook this, so I hope I don't scare anybody, but this is chicken liver. That's the next thing. Chicken liver or organ meats just in general is a great nutrient-dense source of protein. And I know in Western diets, we don't eat a lot of organ meat. We just tend to have the muscle. But the organ meat has a lot of nutrients, trace minerals that are really hard to find in our everyday diet. So it's a good nutrient-dense food, something to just have in, a couple times a week, not something to have every single day. But it's for people who have iron deficiency, we know that there's lots of iron in organ meats, also zinc, phosphorus, potassium, and B vitamins in there. And of course, when it comes to livers like this chicken liver here, we want to try to find the cleanest, best quality we can find, pasture-raised chicken livers or grass-fed beef liver. I tend to use chicken liver most of the time, but certainly beef liver is one that people are using as well. It's just a little bit tougher, so you just have to know how to cook that. Kelly is saying, what is the protein powder called? The one that I'm using right now is called Pure Paleo Meal by Designs for Health. But essentially, there are a few brands that have this, and it's essentially a bone broth protein. So the collagen is part of that protein that's in there. So this is instead of something like a whey protein, because I have that dairy sensitivity. So instead of whey protein or pea protein, you can do a bone broth protein. So this one is called Pure Paleo Meal. All right. Okay. So going on to something that maybe is less familiar to you are the fermented soy products. So you may have heard of miso or tempeh or natto. That's what I'm going to talk about next. Now, soy products, first of all, there's some issues with it's a common food sensitivity. So if it's something that you don't tolerate, obviously this is not a good option for you. But a lot of people do tolerate it, and especially if it's fermented soy products, it can be a really, really good way to enhance the nutrient content in your diet. So the first one I've got here is miso. So this is just a paste, and hopefully you can see clearly what it looks like there. And it's quite salty. This is the container that I've got. Generally with any soy product, I definitely recommend finding organic, non-GMO. So this is, most people know miso, I think, from miso soup, but you definitely can use it for a lot of other things. You can use it, because it's kind of salty and it's pasty, you can use it as a sauce to coat on vegetables, for example. So it's a really nice one too. And then other fermented soy products, let me talk about basically why these are important first. I think most people know about these foods as fermented probiotic foods, and they absolutely are nice probiotics in there. But the thing that really highlights these fermented foods as bone healthy foods are the vitamin K2. You might have heard of vitamin K. There is vitamin K1 in leafy green vegetables, broccoli. Vitamin K is known also for bone health, but mostly for the function in clotting, blood clotting. Whereas vitamin K2 is really well known and established as a healthy bone nutrient. And vitamin K2 is a lot harder for us to find in our Western diet because it's generally made out of the fermentation process. It's bacteria that can make vitamin K2. So our gut bacteria can convert vitamin K1 to vitamin K2. But if we can enhance that with more vitamin K2 from our food, then that's really, really helpful for your bone health. So how does vitamin K2 actually help? What vitamin K2 does is make sure that the calcium that we're eating is going to the right place in the body. So going to the structure of the bone instead of, for example, going to the blood vessel lining. So that may be why there seems to be a link between fermented soy and eating fermented soy and less hardening or arterial stiffness. It's called less hardening of blood vessels. There seems to also be a lower intake of fermented soy linked to higher blood pressure, for example. So that may be the link there between that vitamin K2. There is another component that you might hear about with natto, specifically this one. Let me give you a closer look. This is fermented soybean. It's called natto, N-A-T-T-O. And this is a fermented food, and you can, let me just show you just the texture of it, because this is kind of famous for being kind of different. So it's got this kind of a stringiness to it. Who wants to eat this? And I'll just show you again a little bit closer how to prepare that. But that's natto. And so fermented soy, specifically natto, is actually linked to reduced risk of osteoporosis, fractures in postmenopausal women. So that's really an important one that I definitely like to keep in my regular diet. Again, with any soy product, I recommend doing organic, non-GMO. When it comes to natto, you're going to find it in packages like this, or in a styrofoam container if it's frozen, or in a plastic container. Usually I can find, there's only usually just one option, but there is usually an organic option that you can find. So definitely choose that one. Andrew is saying, I have a product called Koji Salt, which is a fermented miso product. Adds flavor nicely to dishes, but not sure if it's a healthy product. Oh, interesting. I don't know that product, but I'll definitely look that up. So it is a fermented miso product. That sounds great. I'll have to check that out later on. Thanks, Andrea. Koji Salt. Okay. So let me just show you here. Is anybody familiar with natto? Does anybody here eat it regularly? I'd love to know. It has it's actually very mild tasting, but it has a special aroma that makes it quite famous. And I will just show you how it's normally eaten. A tiny little bit of soy sauce usually, and a tiny little bit of mustard. All right. And then it's usually whipped up. So it's a little bit like when you cook okra and it gets kind of slimy. It's a little bit like that, but extreme version. So let me show you what it looks like now. This is making my mouth water because I love natto. But let's see what you guys think. I'd love to know what you think. So now the slimy sort of stringy part is really enhanced. You can see that. It's kind of almost like foamy. And generally it's just eaten like that. You might add a little bit of green onions or scallions or something like that. In Japan, it's just usually eaten with rice. I've eaten it a lot with quinoa. It's delicious, I think, but I hear it's an acquired taste. All right. Is anybody willing to try it? I hope you are. So going back to vitamin K2, which is found in large amounts in natto. Vitamin K2 is found in some other fermented foods like aged cheeses. So obviously if dairy is okay for you, that's another option. It's just not as, it's just not in high levels as it is in natto. So if you're feeling adventurous, I would totally try the natto. And next time you're looking for a vitamin D3 supplement, we're starting to see more of vitamin K2 in combination with vitamin D for bone health. So I think that's a really good option to really make sure that that calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K2 can work together for safe bone health. And then remember to just keep working on improving gut flora with fiber and variety of foods, because that gut bacteria can convert vitamin K1, like from our leafy vegetables, to vitamin K2 as well. So those are all of my favorite foods. I hope that you'll let me know about what you thought about the miso or the natto if you're trying that for the first time. Do let me know if you'd like some recipes or some ideas on how to cook all of these things. With the natto, it's pretty much just what I showed you. That's how it's made, essentially just with the soy sauce and mustard, and then eaten on the side with whatever starch you're having. But if you're wanting some more ideas on how to eat these foods, let me know, and we can definitely follow up with some specific recipes for this. I hope you can incorporate one or two of these into your diet. If you try out the natto, please let me know what you think. And do let me know if you would like some more recipe ideas. Leave me a comment here. And of course, if you know anybody that could use this information, that is looking to improve their bone health, or that's starting to follow more of a dairy-free or less dairy in their diet, and this might give them some good ideas on how to boost up their calcium and other bone healthy nutrients, please share this video with them. We would be happy to help anybody that you think could use this information. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.